Okay, good luck, everybody. Uh, I went a little quick on Erev Shabbos. So just to reiterate, machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish regarding if a person that's tamei goes ahead and eats the meat before zrika. In other words, meat of a korban cannot be eaten before zrika. Zrika matters it for achila. So if he's tamei, if and he eats it after achila, of course he's chayav kares, right? If he's tamei. If he eats carbon when he's tamei, does he chayiv kares? Yeah. Um, what happens if he eats it before tzrika? Would you get malchus or not? That was the shaila. So Reish Lakish said you get malchus because he said learned the pasuk b'chol kodesh leisiga. He said that you shouldn't eat it. You eat your tamei. You're going to eat the Rabbi Yochanan, on the other hand, he had a gezer shava tumasai. The pasuk says one after the other. It says v'abasar sheyiga b'chol tamei lo yachel be'esh yisaref. V'abasar sheyiga b'chol tamei lo yachel. Don't eat it, burn it. Then it says the pasuk says v'hanefesh asher toichel basa mizevach hashlamim v'tumasai alav, and then v'nichvus hanefesh me'ameha, and then he'll get he'll get kares. So when do you get kares? Is when you go into the base when only after zrika. So we have a tumasai was a gezer shava bia going into the base hamikdash when you chayiv kares, and achila of tamei when you chayiv kares. You only chayiv kares after zrika. In other words, since we're going to learn out gezer shava, when are you chayiv for eating? The same way you chayiv in the situation when you go into the base hamikdash. If you go into the base hamikdash, you chayiv kares. So it has to be eating also when you chayiv kares. If you would eat before zrika, says Rabbi Yochanan, you won't be chayiv kares. Therefore, he says you're ain't a loika. So that was the machlokes, whether you get malchus or not. If you're tamei and you eat before zrika, says Reish Lakish, yes. Says Rabbi Yochanan, not. And now we're going to delve into that kufa. We're on Lamed Dal and Amid Aleph, about 12 lines down, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 12. Kufa. Tamei she'achol basa kodesh lefnei zrika. A person that's tamei, he eats kachim before zrika. Reish Lakish loika. Again, this is what we said before. Rabbi Yochanan ain't a loika. He does not get malchus. Rabbi, that machlokes is bitumis haguf. The machlokes is by tumis haguf. In other words, if a person is tamei tumis haguf and he goes ahead and he eats it, there Reish Lakish says you would get malchus, and Rabbi Yochanan says you won't. So he's tamei before zrika. Guys, right? He's tamei before zrika. Says Reish Lakish he gets malchus. Says Rabbi Yochanan he doesn't. Aval, however, bitumas basar, if he's tahar and the bas is tamei before zrika, divriyakol loika, everyone would say you get malchus. Everyone say we get malchus. Namakra, it says v'habasa asheyiga b'chol tamei lo ye'achol v'habasa, the extra hay l'rabbis eitzim ulavana, to go ahead and include eitzim v'lavana. So you hear this, fellas. It's possible to get malchus for eating wood. It's possible for eating malchus, getting levina. V'habasa. Says Rashi, guys. The rabbis eitzim v'levana, the tumas atzmon, that they can become tamei. The chibas hakodesh machsharasan. How do you have hechsha? The chiba of kodesh, the fact that what it's dear to kodesh, literally dear to kodesh, right? Because if it's chashivus, it's shaykh. L'shavinu oichla, to make it an oichel. So, how's it possible, guys, to eat wood and be chayiv achilas kachim? Guys, here we're being marba v'habasa, that if you eat wood or levina, which is usually burnt, you be chayiv. It's chibas kodesh machsharasan l'shavinu oichla, to make it into an oichel. The afag of the hani lav b'nei chelininu, even though these are not edible. Ubasel l'fnei zrika le'garaminayu, and basel l'fnei zrika is no worse. So geshmak glima, guys, listen to the outside. Listen to this beautiful limud. This is Abaya. Says Abaya, we have machlokes Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says no malchus. Reish Lakish says yes malchus. You know when that is? That's when he's tamei and the bus is tahar, but it's for zrika. Rabbi Yochanan learns out tumasai, and Reish Lakish learns out from the pasuk b'chol sheyiga. Now, What about if the meat is? What about if the meat is lefnei zrika and the meat is tamei and he's tar? Guys, so would you get malchus for eating wood? For habasa, yes. Meat lifnei zrika is not worse than wood. In other words, neither one's an eichel. But chibas kodesh makes it into an eichel. If chibas kodesh can make it into an eichel by wood, it can make it basab lifnei zrika. It's not worse. Says Vaya, therefore, even Rabbi Yochanan would be moed to get malchus. Even Rabbi Yochanan would be basa. He'd be moed to get malchus because it's nish erga then holds. It's not worse than wood. It's not worse than wood. That's a baya. That's a baya. Just finish the pasuk. V'basel Rabbi seitzim lefaina the lav b'nei achilininu v'afilu hachi Rabinu kra the Torah is marba that you would get malchus if you ate it. That's right. That's a baya. For Rav Amar machloikis b'tumis haguf. He agrees with Abaya. The machloikis is b'tumis haguf that the meat is tahar, he's tamei, and it's a fuzrika. Aval b'tumis basa. He says the opposite. Divri akol even reish lakish b'mayda ain't a leika. Mamis the machloikis semek in when if the basa wad is tamei. Like Abaya, they both get malchus. Everyone agrees. Like Rava, everyone agrees you don't get malchus. Okay, we heard the svara of Abaya, the habasa, the rabbis eitzim levaina. What's the svara of Rabbi Yochanan? What's the svara of Rabbi Yochanan that everyone, even Reish Lakish, be moida ain't a leika? My timer, kivin like Harinan Bay, v'tumasay alav v'nikrasa. When do you get, guys? When do you get malchus for tumasay alav? If he's tamei, only when you chayiv kares. That's after zrika. That's after zrika. Therefore, loy karinon bay, right? Loy karinon bay, and therefore we're going to learn out the smichas psukim. We're going to learn out that you do not get what you don't get malchus. So listen to this pasuk. Vayikra zayin yutes. Vayikra zayin yutes. Ve'abasa sheyiga b'chol tamei. And basa that touches any tamei. So now the meat is tamei. That's our case. That's the case. The meat is tamei. Good. Lo yachol. Don't eat it. Beishisari, burn it. Good. Next pasuk, guys. Next pasuk. This is pasuk. That's pasuk yutes. Here's pasuk chav. V'hanefesh asher toichel basa mizevach hashlamim. And someone who does eat asher Hashem v'tumasa yalav v'nichrasa hanefesh ahi me'ameha. When is he going to get, guys? When, if he's tamei, when's he going to get it? Only after zrika. The mela hu hadin v'abasa sheyiga is only after what? After zrika. Okay, so now we have. Let's go through the two limudim. Says Abaya. Both Abaya and Rava agree. The machloikis, the Reish Lakish says loika. Rabbi Yochanan says ein loika is tumas haguf. What about tumas basa lefnei zrika? If the meat is lefnei zrika and he's tahar, but the meat is tamei, says Reish Lakish, everyone's moided that what. It's you get malchus v'habasa l'rabbis eitzim levaina, and before zrika it's not worse than eitzim levaina. Says Rabbi Yochanan, no, we have a juxtaposition, what we call the hekesh. We have pasuk with pasuk yud test zayin yud test and vayikra says the meat is tamei, and therefore and chaf says, and if you are tamei, you're going to get kares. When is that? After zrika. So just like if the chorus is speaking, the pasuk chaf is speaking after zrika, who adin pasuk yites is speaking what after zrika. But if before zrika, divrei hakol, you wouldn't get malchus. That's Rafa. That's not like it's the Baiva Rafa. Fred the Gemara. 1 second. What does Rava do with Abaya's pasuk? He bought a pasuk v'habasa, right? Says the Gemara. Right? When once it says with love, it's not called the basa sheyiga b'chol tamei. Once you don't have pasuk chaf, you don't have pasuk yites. Pasuk chaf is speaking after zrika. Pasuk yites is speaking after zrika. Geshmak is anything. What's about the raya that Abraya bought ve'habasa l'rabbi seitzim levoina, and therefore lefnei basa lefnei zrika should not be worse than what? Than wood. Says the Gemara, what are we speaking about over here? You went ahead and you makadish the wood in a kli. The nase, well, we'll see what that means in a second. The nase kamisha karvoy kol matirov. It's like you went ahead, you bought a carbon, the matir, you matir everything. In other words, you've finished the job. Ditnan, Mishnah, kol sheyesh le matirin, anything that has a matir. Guys, a korban, the matir, the dam matir is the basa, a mincha, the klaimis matzah is the mincha. Anything that has a matir that permits it, that permits the meat for achila, mishakarvu matirav, what? Then what? It's when the tamei is only when mishakarvu matirav. Kol she'en matira, and anything that doesn't have a matir, anything that doesn't have a matir, mishakitshu bekli. So something that doesn't have a matir, right? It itself is a matir. Dam would be would be a matir. Wood would be a matir. Lavoina would be a matir. But they themselves are not matir as anything. They don't become matir, right? So therefore, the very geschmack. You know why, guys? If you're tummy and you eat wood that was tar, that became tummy, right? That is speaking is when that kli became kodesh by itself, not because you're learning out a din of neisrika. It's speaking you makadesh it. So what happens? Rashi says you went ahead, you took a shovel, and the shovel was a kli kodesh, and you shoveled the eitzim, or you shoveled the charcoal, whatever it was that you ate, the levoina. The kli was makadesh it. Taisus has a problem with that. He says it's speaking where you polish the wood, the gezirim, you carve them down well. Either way, that's speaking about that case. But einochinami, it's not speaking to learn out lifnei zrika. Okay, so guys, just to reiterate, fellas, we have machloikis reish lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Whether you get malchus, you don't get malchus if you eat the basel lifnei zrika. And that machloikis, the gedolei amoroyim, Rabbi Yochanan reish lakish, the next generation of few generations of Abai Rava, all great bar pluktas, they argue on what the machloikis is in. Loida Abai, the machloikis is what is. No, they agree with the machloikis is. They argue if the basar itself is tamei. Loid Abaya, if the bus is tamei, even Rabbi Yochanan would agree, right? And Loid Rava, no. Even Rava would, even Reish Lakish would agree. If the bus is tamei, the tumasri love, you have the hekish, you would not get malchus. Okay, says the Gemara Vayta. Okay, Penny, good to see you. Lamed Daled and Amid Aleph. We're about the halfway point, a little bit past the halfway point. Itmar. Hamayla Evori Behemet Tameil Gam Mizbeach. You take a horse, you cut up the Evorim, you put it on the Mizbeach. You take a camel, you go ahead, cut it up, you put it on the Mizbeach. So Rashi says Behemet Tameil. Rashi says Susan Gamalim. He doesn't say Chaza. It's interesting, guys. Rashi says Susan Gamalim. He doesn't say Chaza. It's interesting. Anyway, Reish Lakish Amar Loika, you would get Malchus. Rabbi Yochanan Amar ain't a Loika. Rabbi Yochanan says you wouldn't get Malchus. Reish Lakish Amar Loika. Reish Lakish says you get Malchus. Why? Because Tahira in, it says Dafka, it says Tahira in, Dafka Behema Tahira, yes, and not what? And Tahira not, and Tameya not. Adam Kiyakov Mikem, the Pasuk Vayikra says, Mina Behema, Mina Baka, Mina Tzoin, Takrivu es Kabadchem, and it's what? Tahira. Dafka Behema Tahira, Tameya Loi. Now, so is this an open lav that says thou shalt not bring a horse? No, we make a diak. What should you bring? You bring a sheep, you bring a goat, you bring a bull, you bring a cow, right? But what shouldn't you bring? You shouldn't bring a horse. Good, guys. This is called a lav haba mechalal asay. In other words, it's not an open lav; it's inferred from the asay. From the yes, I can infer the no. If you're telling me bring a cow, right? Don't bring a horse. Good. Now, question is, do you get malchus for that? That's the machloikis between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. So now, guy cuts off a horse, he brings it up. Reish Lakish is like, yeah, because the hoira in Tamei Eloi. For lav haba mechala say, like in a love. Rabbi Yochanan ain't like in a love. Because lav haba mechala say, ain't like in a love. A love that comes from. So in other words, you have a very yisodi machloikis in a lav that you a negative that you hear from inferring from a positive, whether you get malchus or not. Like Reish Lakish, you do. Like Rabbi Yochanan, you don't. Now, Moisef Rabbi Yemi asked the following question. It says by what? By behema koma fresas parsa pasha shmini. Koma fresas parsa v'shashash shesa. Prosais malas gera behema oisa toichelu. Guys, that you should eat. Okay? Any animal that has those what? Those qualities of split hooves and it chews its cud, that oiseh techelu. Now, what's the diak? However, an animal not v'loy behema tameya. Oiseh techelu, that you could eat, but a horse you can't. V'lava bol mechal asay, and a lava bol mechal asay. So l'chayre you have a kasha on Reish Lakish. Now, what's the kasha, guys? Where's the kasha? Where's the kasha? Where's the kasha? So if you look at Rashi, do Taisus. Taisus says the same as Rashi. It's very quick. Let's do the Taisus. Oisa techelu, the third Taisus in the bottom. Oisa techelu, asayf samich. We're going to be samich on the end of the pasuk. Diktani b'toras kahanim, ein li ela ba'asay b'loy sasay minayin. Hamad loima. It says loisa chelu. You shouldn't eat it. This guy's looking at me. Eye contact. Eye contact. Eye contact. Oisa techelu. What does that mean? Eat a cow. You can afford, don't eat a horse. So now, if you're telling me a lav abol machala say guys is a lav, why would it be necessary to go ahead and then say a lav, don't eat it? By saying a lav, don't eat it, obviously you say the inference is not a good inference. Again, oisa toichelu, good. Leit reish lakish, what does that mean? You're going to get malchus. You know why? Because you can eat a horse, you can eat a cow, but you can't eat a horse. Now, it doesn't say you can't eat a horse. We're inferring it. Eat this, don't eat this. Now, would it be necessary then to say another pasuk, don't eat this? No, but it does. So it says, when it says that second pasuk, don't eat it, right? That's what Taisus means in Rashi. When it says don't eat it, what's it telling me? That the inference is not true. So that's the Kashan Rish Lakish. It's really missing from the Gemara. That's what Taisus said. You samich on it from, in other words, you wouldn't have to tell me don't eat it. I can figure out don't eat it. You just told me to eat this, and I confirm don't eat that. Okay, so now as a result of this kasha, now who guys over here is more makel? Rabbi Yochanan is more makel than Rabbi Yochanan, right? Right? Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish is more chomer than Reish Lakish. I just repeated myself. Huh? Rabbi Yochanan is more makel than Reish Lakish because Rabbi Yochanan says don't get malchus, and Reish Lakish says you do. Amalei Rav Yaakov Rav Yirmiyah bar Tachlifa Asber. Right? I'll explain it to you. This is the machlokes. It's not speaking about putting a horse or a cat or a camel on the mizbeach. Everyone's going to say, even Reish Lakish, you won't get malchus. You won't get malchus. Ki pligi bechaya. What happens if you put a deer on the mizbeach? You cut up a deer, you put it on the mizbeach. We all know that what? You only bring an animal from Tsainu Bakar. You only bring an animal from Tsainu Bakar, from something that you could find in your neighbor's backyard, in your barn. You don't bring a lot from a chaya. It says Geshmak. May Simcha the Meshech Chachma fellas. It's Geshmak. You know why the Torah couldn't tell you to bring a chaya? How in the world are you going to catch a deer? It's very hard, right? It wouldn't be the ways to the Torah Aziz. So what? You're going to be chayav to bring a deer? It's not like, it's hard to catch a deer. Anyway, so therefore the Torah brings it's easy stuff: sheep, goat, cow. It's very easy things. So now, bottom line is, what about if you bring a deer? Rabbi Yochanan Amar oiver ba'asei, Reish Lakish Amar eina oiver b'lei klum. So now we're being mapich. Rashi points out, fellas, we're switcheroo. Rabbi Yochanan now is being machmir, right? Rabbi Yochanan is being machmir, and Reish Lakish is being mekel. Reish Lakish is saying, Rabbi Yochanan says you be over an asay, you mevatel an asay, right? But bring tsoinu bakad, but don't bring a deer. And he says, Reish Lakish, you won't be over in anything. You won't even be over in an asay. When it says tsoinu bakad, you know what that means? It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah being tsoinu bakad. But if you would bring a deer, machnish dois. Not that you become. In other words, it's neutral. You won't be over on anything. But Rashi points out, like the way Rav Yaakov's learning pshat, Rabbi Yochanan is the machmir and Reish Lakish is the mekel. In the first pshat, Rabbi Yochanan was the mekel and Reish Lakish was the machmir. Good. Rabbi Yochanan moiv basei behema in chayaloi dafka behema tzayin baka not a chaya. Reish Lakish amar eino oiver love b'lei klum. Why? Hahula mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to what? To bring a behema. But if you bring a chaya, you would not be over. Very interesting machlokes. Okay? Now, Ma'aseh Rava. Ilu Nemar, if it would have said, Adam ki yaakov michem korban Lashem behema. If it would have said korban Lashem behema, but it wouldn't have said sonu bakar. Hayisoim, I would have said the following: Chaya b'chal behema. Right? I would have said Chaya is b'chal behema. If it would have said behema, just behema, not sonu bakar. Guys, behema is a very, very more general term. Sonu bakar is more specific. If it would have said, instead of saying Tzoin Bakar, if it would have said Adam Kiyakar Mikem, right? Behema, Korban Lashem Behema. So you know what I would have said? I would have said Chaya B'chal Behema. You know what you could bring? You could bring a deer also. Shenemar is, now where do you see Chayas B'chal Behema if you say the word Behema? So is that Behema Shetochelu. These are the behemoths you could eat. Like in Parshas Re'eh. Shor, Se, Ksavim, V'se'izim, Ayol. What's an ayol? It's a deer. Not ayil, guys. Ayol. Tzvi, a deer. Now you just listed, look what you listed. You listed sheep, you listed goats, you listed deer. So what do you see? Chayas b'chal behema. That's what you're proving from here. But it doesn't say in the pasuk Adam kiyak mikem behema korban Hashem. It doesn't say the word behema. It says tzonu bakar. Tamad loymar bakar b'tzoyin. Bakar b'tzoyin amarti lecha v'lo chaya. I said tzonu bakar and I didn't say chaya. Yachal yavi. I might think you shouldn't bring it v'im havi kasha, but if you do bring it, halama zed doime the Talmud shama loy Rabbi. The Talmud, the Rebbe says to the Talmud, havali chitim, bring me wheat. V'hevi loy chitim usayrim, and he brings wheat and barley. So l'chayra she'ena over kamar v'al. You listen. You asked for A, he bought A and B. So since he bought A, he didn't do anything wrong. He just added a little bit. So I would have said perhaps, if I didn't say tzon baka, maybe you might think what it says what tzon baka, but if you bring a chaya, it's good. Al devarav, elam moisav al devarav, but he's adding on. He's adding on B. The kasha tamad leima. No. Don't, you're making a mistake. Baka b'tzoyin. It says baka b'tzoyin. Baka b'tzoyin amarti lecha. I told you baka b'tzoyin for loy chaya, but I didn't tell you a chaya. You want a mashal? Here's the mashal. Halama zed doime the Talmud sh'amalei Rabbi, to a Talmud that the Rebbe said, Al tavi li elachitim. Not that he said bring me chitim. He said bring me one word, guys. What's the key word? Only chitim. He said bring me only chitim. V'hevi lechitim usoirim. She'ena kamois val devarav el kamar val devarav. He's over on his words. So now l'chayru b'shlak da Reish Lakish. What did Reish Lakish say? If you bring a chaya, machna shoyis, you're not over on anything. What did Rabbi Yochanan say? You're over on a say. The assay is baka v'tzoyin and not chaya. Therefore, you're over on it. Not like you, Reish Lakish, want to taina. You didn't do anything wrong. Amid Beis, upasal. Tiyufta the Reish Lakish, tiyufta. Right? Tiyufta Reish Lakish be upshlag Reish Lakish. That if you bring a chaya, you mevat on assay. Okay. The Mishnah had said, the kulon, all the pesulim, if they go ahead and the makabel the dam with a machshava of chutz l'zman and chutz l'mkoimoy, if you have dam nefesh, you can bring it back. So let's go back in time, guys. How do we get into this? It's sugya pigel. We said pigels in the shchita, and then other avoidis. And what about kabbalah? Let's say a person's puzzle. He's puzzle. Let's say he's a zar, a non-koyen. He goes ahead, he's makabel the dam. And he has the machshava chutz l'zman, chutz l'makom. So what happens? Go ahead, you can't use this dam, take other dam and sprinkle that, and it's fine. And then the carbon will be okay. Okay? Now, once the dam is done, the other dam is called shirayim. You can't use it anymore. So, what's the din? A puzzle that goes ahead, he's puzzled to avoida. What's the halacha if he does the following? If he's makabel the dam and then he does rika. Why do I say he does rika? Because the Mishnah says mafurish, if he's makabel the dam, just go ahead and take, if there's any left over, go ahead and do it. So if Yankel the non-koyen is makabel the dam, you can't use that dam, right? What do? You go ahead and he's makabel dam with a machshava chutz man chutz l'makom. Go take other dam that's left over and use it. We're not speaking about that. One word. Rashi says one word that mamish changes the whole sugya. Look at Rashi. Ma'aseh yasa shirayim. What's the shaila? Reish Lakish said a puzzle that goes ahead. What's the halacha of making shirayim? Im kibul vizorak. If he's makabel and he goes ahead and he does rika. Good. So if he's makabel vizorku, ma'u sheyachsa hakosher v'yakabel. Can a kosher then go ahead and be makabel? V'yizroik v'yachshe hakorbin. Me, I'm reading on keeping the Zorak puzzle. Since the puzzle went ahead and did Srika, Shav Yuladam Shebet Savar Shirayim, it makes the leftover blood in the neck Shirayim, Visulai Michsi Lizrika, and you can't use it anymore. I don't know. Le'alima Zrika's puzzle, Shav Yuladam Shebet Savar Baim. It doesn't have the koyach to do it. So whatever he did will discount, but it's not going to go ahead and mess up the blood in the neck. V'yachsa Kosher v'yakabel. Let's go to the outside, guys. Outside. When it says shirayim over here, it means means, as Kenny would say, ibba geblieben, right? It's left over, that's it. You can't use it anymore. Forget it. Question. If he does just the Kabbalah we saw in the Mishnah, you could. Here he's doing Zerika in addition, right? In Zerika. He's doing Kabbalah and Zerika, right? And Kabbalah and Zerika. It's Geschmack Diak from the Briskara fellas. What's the case? The Zor did both. Mashma Vakasha did the Kabbalah, and the Zor did Srika. Itaka would be Shraya. The only shaila is when the Zor did both. It's Mashma the Medayik the Briskarov. But if a Kasha did the Kabbalah, and then the only thing that was messed up is the Srika, Taka wouldn't be good. It's Geshmakadik in Rashi. Okay, so now once he messes it up, can you use it or not? Do we say it's finished or not? That's the Gemara shaila. Boy minei Rish Lakish bar Yochanan. Pasal ma'u sheyasu shirayim. Amalei. Ein ois shirayim ele chutz zman v'chutz l'mkaymai. Hoyel meratzel lepigulai. He answers that it's not shirayim. You know when Zerika makes shirayim? When it has chutz zman, chutz l'makom. Guys, by now, if you've been listening, we know one thing about pigul. You have to go ahead and finish the job. You have to finish the job. What finishes the job? The Zrika. So if the Zrika finishes the jobs, it tutepis, as we say. It does something. It's maratza that now the carbon is not good. That would make shirayim. But just the puzzle doing Zrika without the machshava chutz l'makom chutz l'zman is not going to mess it up. Good. So Rabbi Yochanan answered the shaila. Amazingly enough, in one line, guys. Amazingly enough, right? We're not used to this, right? One line answer, boom. He says, no problem. In other words, if the Zor was makabelit and the Zor did the Srika, it would not, you would have leftover blood in the neck. You would be able to gather that blood and go ahead and do a Srika. That's the way Reish Lakish asked Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Zvid Masni Hachi. Rabbi Zvid learned like this. Boy minei Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Kois puzzle. You have a kois. That was puzzle. A kasha was makabelit, and now he took it outside. Once the blood leaves the azara, you have a psul yaitza, guys. Once the blood leaves the azara, you have a psul yaitza. So what happened? He was makabel the dam, everything is kasha v'yasha. Now he goes outside with it. What's the din? He went outside with it. What's the din? Can make the maushi yasa shirayim. The other, can you go ahead and use the other dam for shirayim or not? Says Rashi. Kois pasal kigoin shiyotza ma'u sheyasa l'dam shebet sava shirayim im zorku koin kosher lezeh v'lo yeh takona l'korbin sheyachsa v'yakabel. Right? If he goes ahead and he takes that dam, in other words, fellas, if he takes the dam outside and doesn't do his rika, of course you could use it. Why? There's no shaila that would make shirayim. The shaila is if he took the blood outside, it's now pasal b'psul yaitza. He does this rika. Does that make the dam that savas shirayim or not? That's the shaila leit Reb Zvid. Okay, Amalei. So this Rabbi Yochanan answered Reish Lakish. Amalei psul gufa ma'isrilcha. Why do you hold? Forget about the kais being pasul. What about the Zor himself doing this rika? He pasul mashra shirayim. If a pasul would do the zrika, it would make shirayim. Kais pasal nami mashva shirayim. He pasal loy mashva shirayim. Kais pasal nami loy mashva shirayim. In other words, he answered him the following way: you're asking me if the kais that went out and now you did the zrika make shirayim. So you ask better. Why are you asking about a kais? Why don't you ask about the psul? Forget about the psul himself. If the pasal himself does it, would it make shirayim or not? Could he use the dam or not? Rav Yomi midifni masni hachi. Notice we have a third way to learn the shaila. Boy mini abaya me rabba. Kois mau sheyasu es chaveroi dachoi oy shirayim. There's two possibilities, guys, in blood. It's shirayim or it's dachoi. If it's shirayim, it gets poured on the mizbeach on the side. If it's dachoi, it goes into the canal, never makes it to mizbeach and goes outside. Okay, that's the difference between shirayim and dachoi. So the shaila over here was, if you want, you go ahead and you have a case of kais mao shiyah. So let's see Rashi. Rashi says, guys, kais mao shiyah is chaver l'dochi shrayim. Mamish parallel to the Gemara. Let's see Rashi. Kigoin chatos shekibul damai b'shnei kaisais. You makabel the dam of the chatos in two separate cups. Now the halacha is with a chatos, you daub it on the four corners of the mizbeach, on the four kronos, above the chut sikra. You go on top. Good. So what did you do? You makabel the blood in two kaisais. V'nosan kol matnoisav meyacha mehem. Now you only used one of them. You should have used both, but you used one. Mahu mehen chaveru shirayim hu v'nishbach liyasoid. Then this chaver, this cup that they didn't use is shirayim, and it's thrown down the side. The chsiv v'es kol adam yishboich. Oy dachihu dechia biyadayim. You pushed it away with your hands. When you should have gone ahead and put it on the kronos and you didn't. And then it's going to get poured down the canal that ran through the Mizbeach, Shabazara, Hametzian Damim Nachal Kidron, that took the blood out to the valley of Kidron. So here's the Shaila. You went with Makabel, two cups, but you only used one. The second cup, does this make this Shirayim, and then it gets on the Mizbeach on the side? Or you should have used it and you didn't, so you pushed it away. Then it's not shirayim, but what? It's out, and now you're going to put it in the canal. That's the shaila. So we have four ways to learn shaila, right? We had the shaila whether was the a psul who goes ahead and does the kabbalah and srika. What's the din in shirayim? And Rabbi Yochanan answered, it's not shirayim. It's not shirayim. It's not shirayim. And you could use it again. But I should learn the shaila right about the kais itself. And he answered, well, it's minei ubei. If the psul is makes shirayim, then the kais makes shirayim, vice versa. And now we're learning the shaila. We're learning the shaila about a kais mahu. If a kais that is left when it should have been used and it wasn't used, is shirayim or not? And the case is a chatas. You makabel two cups. You used one. What's the din in the other cup? Is it shirayim, it goes on the mizbeach side, or is it dachoi and it gets what? Thrown in the canal? That was the shaila. Amalei. So Rabbi answered Abaya, plukta the Rebbe Lazar Reb Shimon for Rabbanon. It's a machloikas Rebbe Lazar Reb Shimon Rabbanon, whether it makes it shirayim or it makes him dachoi. The Tanya. It says lemaila. Okay, we have two psukim in Vayikra Dalit, fellas. We have a litany. I like that word. A litany of chatos. We have the Kohen Mashiach. We have the Param Davar, we have the Nasi, and then we have the Karban Yachid. Okay? So what does it say? It says, V'lokach HaKoyen, V'lokach HaKoyen midam achatos betzboi, V'nasan al kanes mizbeach oila, V'es damoi yishpoich el yisoy mizbeach. Now it says V'es damoi, it's blood. It doesn't say all of its blood, it just says it's blood. The next pasuk, a few pasukim later, V'lokach hakoyin midama. This is the chatas yachid. V'nasan al kanas mizbeach. There's called dama yishboich al yisayim mizbeach. So by nasi it says damai, and by chatas it says kol, all the blood. So how do you reconcile the two, guys? Right? When do you put all the blood on the mizbeach? down the side, or when don't you? That's the shaila at hand. Very geshmaka shaila. Detnan. Lemaila by the carbon nasi, it says as dama yishbach. Lemata by the carbon yachid, it says ves called dama yishbach. Minayin lechata shekibel dama ba'arba kaisais. You makabel in 4 kaisais. Finasa matana achas mizeh umatana achas mizeh. Meaning, you had 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you put 1 on one corner, 2 on second corner, 3 on third corner, and 4 on all corner. Meaning, you used all 4. Shekula nishbachan liyisoid, that they're all shirayim, that they go down the yisoid. Hamad Leimar, ves kol dama yishbach, and all its blood, you should go ahead what and yishbach. Okay, all its blood you should go ahead and spill. Good. Yochel nasin abba matanis mikos echad. I might think if you go ahead, you have 4, but you only used 1, and now you have 3 left over. Yehi kula nishbachan liyisoid. I would think you still pour them on the side. Tamad leima ves damai. It's blood. Haketzad. Hu nishbach li side. The one you use will go on the side. Vehin nishbachin lo ama. And the other 3 are going to go lo ama. So according to this Rabbanon, guys, if you use 1, it doesn't make shirayim. It's tachui. This is the Rabbanon, guys. What do you do? Guys, look what I did. I prepared 4. I used 1. So what did I do? I was matcha. I went ahead and pushed away the other 3 biyadayim. What did the Chacham say? Where does it go? In the Amma. It doesn't go on the side. It's so therefore it's dachui. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Oimer, minayin lechata shekibel domen bar v'koises v'nasan dalim atanis b'koisecha shekul nishbach liyisoid tamaloyim is called dama yishbach. The same. I vaksiv as dama yishbach. Amar Rashi hahu lemeute shirayim shevet sava behema. Right. That the shirayim. So guys, why don't you just say, look at the lashon. That's called dami v'nasan dalim atanis b'kois echad. So what did you do? You prepared 4. You used 1. Why did Rabbi Elazar Shimon say? Look at it again. V'nasan dalim atanis b'kois echad shekulan nishbachin liyisaid. It's shirayim. So that's your shaila. You want to know shirayim? Shirayim is a machlokes. If you use 1, according to the Chachamim, it's nitcha, and therefore you're going to throw it into the canal. According to Rabbi Shimon, it's still shirayim, and it'll go on the mizbeach. Now, what does Rabbi Shimon do for esdamai? Right? According to the Chachamim, that goes on the mizbeach, but not the other 3. Again, one more time, guys. One more time. We have 2 Deshainis. We have by the Nasi Damai. We have by the carbon chatas of every person kol dam. Kol dam is when what? You use all 4. What about 1? If you use 1, that's ves damai, according to the Chachamim. When you use the 1, that dam will go on the mizbeach. The other 3 will go down to your side. Says Rabbi Shimon, even when you use 1 out of 4, it still goes on the mizbeach. So what does he do with this? That's damai. What does he do with that miyot? Right? On that, so what the Marian says, that if you have shirayim on the neck of the animal, you still have blood in the neck of the animal, that goes in the canal. That's thrown in the Amisamaya. Okay, the Mishnah had said, again, the Mishnah took place, it seems like ages ago. The Mishnah had said, if a person is makabel and he gives it out to a puzzle, take it back from the puzzle, right? If he's makabel with his left hand, put it back in your right hand. If he's makabel in a kli chayil, right? If he takes a kli shares and puts it in a kli chayil, put it back in a kli shares. In other words, it's correctable. Whatever you did was correctable. So you have 3 cases, right? Yeah, you have 3 cases. You have the case of psul, case of right left, and case of kli chayil. Good. But tzricha, you got to tell me each case. Diashmin and puzzle. Havamina, my puzzle is tame. The tame, and you know why he can go? He's tame. Why can he go? Why can he take it back from him? The chazila avodas tzibur, because if a tame coins tame, and it's you have enough roiv of kahanim or tame roiv tzibur, it's shaykh to avoida. So I would say since he's shaykh to avoida, it's possible to go ahead and take it back. Since it's shaykh to avoida, it's possible to go ahead and take it back, right? But so kamash malon, any puzzle. I will smile a small loy, but a left hand not. I would say, in other words, I would say the following. Excuse me. Since Tameis Chazal Avoida, therefore you could take it back. But lefty, I would say you can't take back. V'yashmin and small this lehachshera b'yam kippurim. Guys in Yom Kippur, why does it say we just did the Avoida? He takes the machta of coals in his right hand. He takes the kaf of the frankincense of the ketoris in his left hand. So we see there is a time where left hand is being used. We see a time where left hand is being used. So I'd say that's why you could take it back, right? Amul klichoil loy, but a klichoil not. V'yashmin a klichoil, the last case, b'shem the chazi l'kutshayno, because you can be mekadosh it. Amul hanach, but psul and smoil, which you can't be mekadosh. Ein loy setzricha, tell me all the cases you can take it back. Good? Okay, guys, we just did a sugi of dachui, correct? Good? So watch this. He's makabel in his right. He puts it in his left hand. What did you say? Take it back with your right. Why don't we say when it's his left hand, he's out of the ballpark? Why don't you say it's dachui? You makabel little kli kodesh. You put in a kli choil. Why could you take it back? Why don't you tell me once it's in the kli choil, you're out of the ballpark? Good. Great kasha. Great kasha, right? Why don't we say dachui? At that point in time, why don't we say dachui? Why don't we say it's out? So only Ravina Ravashi, Hachiyam Rabbi Yirmiyah Midifti. He's the Mara the Shmeitzer. He said Boy Midei earlier. Rabbi Yirmiyah Midifti, not a common name. Mishmei the Rava Hamani. Who's the Tana of the Mishnah? Is Chanlan Mitzrihi. The less they dechuyin. The Tanya Chanlan Mitzri Yomer. Afilu dam bekois maybe chaberu mazvedlei. Guys outside. Yedia's time. Come on, you know this. We've been down this road. We know in Yom Kippur you bring two goats, the same Mishtaleach and the same that goes to Hashem. What happens if one of them drops dead? You go ahead, you make the goyrel, one drops dead. So now I have one. Is it nidcha or not? So one man the Omer says, Bali Chayim ein nidachim. So in other words, go ahead, just bring another one, and you're good. And there's another man the Omer says, no, that Bali Chayim nidachim, and you have to do a new goyrel and bring another one. This one's out, and you use the other two. Charana Mitzri does not hold of dicha at all. Listen what he says. You have two. You shechted the one Lashem, right? You shechted one Lashem. You have one Lazazel. Now you're at the spritz. It falls out. It's gone. Just go ahead, bring another one, and you can still use this one. Why? Because he doesn't hold of dichui. And Mele, he can be the Tan of a Mishnah. Since you went to right, left, right, okay, big deal. He doesn't know the dichui. That's the teretz of what? Of a Ravina. Okay. Anyway, Rav Ashi says Ravina, I got a better teretz. And this is a big yisoid in dachui. Kol shebiyodoi lehavi dachui. Anything that you can correct, it's not shaykh dachui. Anything that's in your hands to correct, that's shaykh dachui. Let's see Rashi at Geshmak. Shebiyodoi letaking lahachser, to return. Kihanach, like this case over here. Psul kasha, psul kasha. Chol kodesh, chol kodesh. Right, left, right. All those cases are reversible, and it's in your power to go ahead and do it very easily. The Masnisan. Aval hu de mishtaleach aisa kasha. Why is it dachui by what? By Yom Kippur? Ein biyodai. Miyema de yov le'achrina. Maybe you can. How do you know you're going to get another one? It's not. That's not considered biyodai. You don't know if you're going to get another one. Mashen came one that's in your hands to do. That's geshmak. You can do it right away. Okay. Says the Gemara. Okay. Now, Taisa says the geshmak thing that this kasha of dachui is only going on. It's only going on lefty, and it's only going on the kli. It's not going on the psul. Why? Because watch this. Your kasha, you give it to a psul, and now you take it from him. Him holding on to it is like taking the blood in Yom Kippur and putting it in a base. It's just an itztaba. It's just pashuvat. It's a resting place. So therefore, the shaila of dachay, that's not considered dachay. What did I do? I took it, I gave it to Psul, he's holding on to it. So you pick it. So the kasha is only on what? Only on the lefty, and it's only on what? Only on the kli this kli. Very geschmack. Okay, so two terutzim. One, it's Chana HaMitzri, who doesn't know the Dachui. That's Ravina's teretz. Rav Ashi's teretz is what? Kol Shebiyadai. Now we're going to bring a raya to the teretz of Rav Ashi. And this raya, it's going to escort into tomorrow's daf. Okay, it's Bez Hashem. Rashi Yom Kol Shebiyad Levi Dachui. Rav Shaya. Guys, you don't see this name. Rav Shaya, Shin Yud Shaya. Kavasei de Rav Ashi Mistabra. It's Mistabra like Rav Ashi. Man Shamalei de Islay de Chuyin. Who is the man who says Tichui? Right? Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Huda. Guys, Rabbi Huda once said, Afilu, he says, Afilu, you're going to go ahead, Afilu because you're going to go ahead and he holds the Dachui. V'tanan v'oid Omar Rabbi Huda. Now, by the Korban Pesach, fellas, there was a crazy chain gang, a crazy assembly line. The Gemara says, left gold and silver. There was 1,000,000 kabbanis brought from Bein Abahim, 1,000,000. They really, and they were just taken, throw it on the mizbeach, throw it on the side. You only had to throw it on the side of the mizbeach. Along the way, it's not possible that some of the dam that you makabel, maybe the whole thing spilled, and therefore the guy never got his rika. So you know what they did? After everything is said and done, they went ahead, they fashtupt the hole in the canal, and that where the blood was coming up. They would take a kli, and they would do it. So what do you see? Even though he holds a dachui, he holds kshol shebiyadoi is not dachui. Because it's biyadoi to go ahead and attack him. It's kishmak raya. So this is the raya to Rabbi Ashi's teretz. Detnan v'oidam Rabbi Yehuda nishbach hadam yomes mishtaleach. If the dam spills, then you have to kill the mishtaleach because it's out of the ballpark. Makes the mishtaleach, the one that's being sent dies. Yishbach hadam, you spill the blood, it's out of the ballpark. So we see he holds of dachui. V'shamina lei domar kol shebiyadoi lehavi dachui. Anything that's in your hands to do, lehavi dachui. Where do you see that? The Tanya, a Bryson, and Masech the Pesachim. Rabbi Yudoimer, koisechad hoyim amali midamat harubis. They would go ahead and take one kois in the damat harubis. V'zorka yisrika achas keneged yisaid, and they would throw one zrika keneged the yisaid. Shma mina kol shebiyadoi lehavi dachui. Shma mina. It's a very, very good raya. Okay, geschmack. Everyone should have a good tavach. Hey, guys, know what to